everyone gathered today to commemorate the birthday of Sahib Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Whatever I'm going to share with you today, it's never going to be enough. And it's just a perspective. The perspective of a sand particle trying to elaborate what the ocean is about. And it's never going to be enough. But it's just a small perspective. Nothing more, nothing less. While talking about Guru Gobind Singh Ji, I'm going to share 3 events of his life, which I call them as the impossible legend. And why I call them as impossible legend are because in history of mankind, you will never ever read one person going through these tests in his life ever. And no matter what we say, it will never be close to reality. If you have ever watched that movie Titanic, if you remember the scene where this old lady comes to the crew and they show her a graphic of how they depict the Titanic sank. And they're showing her on that, this is the way the Titanic hit with the iceberg, and this is how it broke, and this is how it must have sank. That lady who went through that experience has a subtle smile on her face. And that smile says, you guys have no clue. Because all you can see is on that graphic, I went through that. And going through that, I can start off with the first impossible event of a person's life. Imagine. These children who did Gatka here today, son, what's your age?
11.
You're 11. How about you? How about you? 8. Now imagine exactly in between their age. A child of 9 years old who reveres his father, the father who is a renowned figure in the society of the religion, and he loves his father a lot. In the beginning of his years, his father had gone to be able to spread the message, was never around, but when the father came back, of course, son and father relationship, you cannot imagine. But at the age of 9, when a child is longing to see his father come back, somebody brings the head of the father, wrapped in a cloth, and tells the child, we are sorry. And they are weeping. They are crying because they have lost a leader. That 9-year-old boy, he consoles those people and says, it's all right. We still have a very long journey ahead of us. That is the beginning of this impossible legend. Because he saw that times are very tough. We have to do something to arm ourselves. His grandfather had an army who fought 6 battles with the Mughals and won all of them. But in about 40-50 years, when the time of Guru Tegh Bahadur Padshah came, all the army was absent. That is why he was captured and put to death. And his 3 Sikhs were tortured to death like no one in history. One was sawed in half, one was boiled in a cauldron, and one was burnt alive. Guru Gobind Singh Ji saw that and said, we need to arm ourselves. He started giving arms training to each and every Sikh. His module then today is taken up by countries like Singapore. They actually ask each and every citizen to arm yourselves because we can't hire an army to protect ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. We have to become the defense of our own country. Switzerland, Thailand, we all have this system. This module was adopted by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. He said each and every person must train. And the second, the impossible legend happens in 1699. I'll fast forward it because, as I said, there's so much to talk on his life, it'll never come to an end. But the second aspect of his life, the miracle is that he, at the peak of his reverence, you know, one of the most dear things to people is when you have power in your hand. It is one of the most addictive things to let go. Each and every person who has a little power would know to let go of power is almost impossible. Even a clerk exercises power. Have you ever seen when you go to a person who is sitting behind a desk, you extend your file, he says, "Abhi khade raho, abhi time nahi hai, dekh nahi rahe ho, hum kaam kar rahe hain, busy hain." He's exercising a power. He's telling you, I have power. And he makes you quiet. Now, talk about the divine power. The kind of power where people worship you. Let me share an incident which happened in Guru Gobind Singh Ji's grandfather's time. He had gone hunting expedition with Jangir. And their tents were in a forest. And somehow the tents were adjacent to each other. They say somebody heard that the sixth Nanak is here and I can actually go and get the blessings of him. That man went into the wrong tent. He didn't see the emperor was sitting there. He bowed down, he put his gold coin, but as he was about to bow down, he saw it was the emperor. He picked up the coin back. The emperor said, "Don't do that. Whatever you want, I will give you, but put that coin back." That man said, "No, I have to put this coin to the person who is going to give me the liberation of life. I want to go to him." The emperor said, "I will chop off your head if you do that." He said, "This head is already his." That kind of reverence, that kind of respect when you get. Now imagine, he had seen that history of Sikhs was full of conflict when it came to giving Guru Gaddi. He saw that there was always fight. 2 times we never had fights. When Guru Arjan Dev Ji was martyred, nobody came up and said, "I want to be the contender of Guru Gaddi." And when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was martyred, nobody came up. Otherwise, there was always somebody claiming to be the Guru. Guru Gobind Singh Ji saw, and while his sons were still alive, in 1699, he created what we call as the democracy, the Council of Sikhs. And he showed everybody. On that Vaisakhi, 50,000 people were gathered. In that 50,000 crowd, he called each and every one, "I need one head." To show that reverence is about, they don't even care about their lives. Can you imagine that kind of power you have? And you're standing there and then you call those 5, you show that full of blood sword, you come out and people are still there, and then you say, "These are the 5 beloved. And from now onwards, I transfer my power to them. From now onwards, it will not be one-man show. We all, as I said, We all cannot imagine what it is to be able to let go of the power. When a person has power, even in the family starts, imposing power because it's the biggest addiction. And that man was able to, while living, a lot of people do that at the deathbed. They appoint somebody or they say, okay, I'm done, I don't have anything to say. But he was still living. And the third, and why I call it impossible is sometimes it is impossible to fathom how a person can do that. And the third was something that I related to a few years ago. My young son came back from school and he had a very deep cut in his finger. And while sleeping at night, he would be wailing, and I was coming from my room to check on him. He was not able to sleep. The whole night, we both were awake because he was crying the whole night. A few days or months later, came that movie, Char Sahibzade. You remember that movie? I was watching that movie in the theater, and the scene came when they show that he knows the next day is the battle that my son is going to take, the step of taking his martyrdom. And he is awake and looking at his son and feeling the pride. How did he do that? As a father, I cried like a baby that day. My children were asking, what's wrong with you? You become too feminine, Dad. I said, you have no idea, son, what it is to feel that. Because my son's finger was cut and I couldn't sleep the entire night. This man saw two of his eldest sons go into the battle in front of his eyes. And still he did not weep, and he was proud of the fact that his sons were amazing warriors. Few days later, somebody informed him that even the younger ones are gone. You know what did he say? He says, "ये चार मुए तो क्या हुआ, मैं जीवित कई हजार." My sons are in millions. That is what I call as the impossible legend. This life, as Alayar Khan says, he says, if it is justifiable, someday, if the whole world does justice, they will come to one conclusion कि गोविंद सिंह का कोई सानी नहीं है. There is no one like this. There is not a possible living or past legend in the history that can be like this. And we, sorry to say, sometimes it irks some of the people that we haven't been able to even fix a date of his birth. I wish the whole world knew that we fixed one date and named that date as the impossible legend Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Because the world needs to know that there existed a man who was a visionary and he accomplished all this in less than 42 years. Can you imagine? From the age of 9 to a young man, and then being able to let go of everything. That's why we call him as Sarbans Dani. Sarbans means his whole family. He let go. He was the biggest giver history has ever known. And why I say this is a proof, I can prove it to you. Today you saw that live. One of his daughters was singing there. she just lost her sister. And while a day after losing her sister, she was singing the Shabads, her tears wouldn't stop. But I was very proud of the fact that this is Guru Gobind Singh Ji's daughter. This is the spirit that he put in all of us. We went through the hardest times in life. We have been through massacres. We have been through holocausts. And yet we survived. And we will always survive because this man's legacy will stay on as a spirit in all of us, will remind us that these kind of legends are not born again and again. And I congratulate everyone that is sitting here celebrating the presence of the spirit of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Thank you very much for listening to your Babaji Swarup stories. Guru Fateh.